just want to say how much I appreciate Don for all he's done for the music department and for the church.
Thank you, Dr.
Brother Don, we'd like to congratulate you on your 15 years there at Lovers Lane United Methodist Church. You've been a good friend to us. We appreciate your prayers and your love and your support. Gatlin boys have a little gift for you. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. Congratulations.
God bless.
God bless. Tell Billy Bob hi.
By the way, Don, Billy Bob would like to be here, but it's Friday night.
Enough said. Can you imagine what it must be like working for Don? I mean, is he a grim taskmaster or just a big teddy bear in cowboy boots?
I don't know, Glo. I do know this, that we all know Charles Allen, and I was talking with Allen once, and he was in a deeply reflective moment. And I was very touched because he told me that when his master calls, he'll be there. And I thought he was talking about the highest authority, but he was referring to Don.
Well, we weren't really satisfied stopping with Charles, so we just asked the question. What is it like working with Don?
Lovers Lane Church, may I help you?
And Don came out of his office and talked with them in Spanish enough that we could understand what they needed, and we were able to help them.
If you water the grass, it will grow.
And Don said, we're here to be servant people.
And he said, 1,000. And I went, sure, we can do that.
And he said, good morning, I'm Don Benton, and I'm going to be your new pastor.
He said, Dink, try not to use humor so much and be yourself.
Said if there was anything we could do, we'd do it for you, but you're going to have to just learn how to let go of some of this.
And he said, you must have had the best birthday you've ever had. And I said, I did, because I was here at the church.
He is really a student of detail, of what people look like when they're participating in worship.
So that's one of my earliest memories of him and his powers of persuasion.
I think the most important thing Don says is what he says at the end of the worship service, that God is for us, that God loves us.
When Don says something, he means it.
Congratulations, Don. I'm still glad you're the minister and I'm not.
My name's Gay Humphrey, and I've worked at Lovers Lane Church now for about 6 years. And when I came in 1986, I came from Tulsa, and I thought that was a pretty big town. Came to Dallas and went to work at Lovers Lane in the computer room. And I had worked there about, maybe 3 weeks. It was in the summertime, and this big man came in the door. Tall, with a beard, kind of scruffy looking to tell you the truth, and he came up to me and he said, do you work here? And I said, well, yes, sir, I do. And he said, well, so do I. I'm the pastor. So that was my introduction to Don Benton. I became a little bit acquainted with Don at that time. And then in April of the next year, I started working in the Congregational Care Office. And at that time, I really started interacting with Don and got to know him. I'd like to say that you have never lived until you've tried to work in an office with this man. When Don's through, he is through. And if you have anything else you need to say to him, you're just right behind him. More than one time I have chased him down the hall to finish a statement or ask a question or to get an answer from him. He is just a very busy man and pretty much a one-track mind. I did have a very happy discovery, though, as I got to know Don better, and that is that this man loves to play. Don and I have been in several skits together for the lay hospital training. He's come to visit me. I went to visit him. Clayton Oliphant came to see us, and Don was my husband, and I was sick. And Don was sick, and I was his wife. And, you know, we just tried to, as many ways as possible, play out this sickbed stuff. And I think probably the very best time was for administrative board. We were doing a skit. I was in the bed, and Don came to visit as the pastor. So I was laying there, and he was explaining to my husband, who was Clayton, how he'd come from the church to visit. And I sat straight up in that bed, and I looked at him, and I said, "Are you Tom Ship?" Really got him good, I tell you. He tells me that has really happened to him, and I'm really not very surprised. A lot of you may not realize that this time last year, I was Don's secretary. They had done some reorganizing in our offices and asked me, you know, how I felt about working for Don and Wanda at the same time, and I was very naive. I said, well, I cannot see a problem with that at all. Went to work for him. It seemed to me like he was gone all the time. I didn't know how hard a job this could be, you know, working for somebody who was never there, so that was fine, and I moved down. And I had quite a few surprises for me. It wasn't that Don was mean, he wasn't demanding, he just was always here. He came to work every day. And he was good to me, and we got along just fine. And I thought probably the main thing about my job was I was going to help Don. He has so much paperwork and so many letters and so many phone messages. I was going to help this man get organized. So one of the first things I did, I was in an office supply place. Not pie place, supply place. And found this little clip, and you cannot see this, but on here it's religious. It says, "Thou shalt be organized." And I thought, isn't that the cutest thing? I'm going to take that to work with me and put Don's phone messages on it. And then when he comes in, oh, I just couldn't wait for him to come to work to find this thing. So he came in the next morning, he picked that up. Well, I might tell you this. When I moved in as Don's secretary, he lost his sense of humor. So he came in the next morning, and he picked up his phone messages. He looked at this little clip, and he looked at me, and he said, "Is that meant for me?" And I said, "Well, yes, sir, it is." And at that time, I realized it was going to be a very long winter. We worked it out all right, though. But I would like to say about the sermons. We had probably 100 copies of every sermon that Don has ever preached in the closets in his office. And we decided it was time we need to clean out and kind of consolidate some things. So now our job was to get rid of these sermons. So I don't know if you remember, you know, we put them out on the plaza, and we'd serve cookies in a sermon and cookies in a sermon. We'd give them to the staff with their paychecks. We made his kids take a bunch of them home. We just, you know, we couldn't really decide. So what we finally did was we sent all those sermons to a foreign country. And we hadn't heard the best part. What we sent them for was for the missionary children to draw on while their parents are at church. They had lots of blank pages in there, so they could do that. Don and I love to tease with each other. I hope you can tell that. We have a really good time in the office, and I would like to seriously say I have never known a more kind-hearted man. Don has a heavy load on his shoulders most days, and yet he has the capacity when a person talks to him to put all that aside, and he's yours, and can really focus on that person. And I think the spirit of family that unites our staff is something that he just is so intent on making happen. He cares for each of us very, very much, and really wants us to know that, you know, every staff person is important to him. And there's a little something that happened this summer that really brought that home to me that I'd like to share with you. We were in Breckenridge, Colorado, outside a little t-shirt shop, and there was a little boy and his daddy out there, and they were looking at some kind of critter on the ground. And that little boy, he was so interested in that, and he finally said, "Daddy, could we take him home?" And his daddy said, "No, son, we can't. You know, we need to leave him here." Well, of course, he was a little boy, and he said, "Well, why, Daddy?" And his daddy was so smart. I love this answer. He said, "Well, son, he has relatives here." So, Don, I don't want you to think that I think you're a critter or a bug or anything like that, but I do want you to know we could not get along without you because you have relatives here.
Well, I think Don Benton was one of the best preachers I've ever heard in my life.
Anytime Don Benton says a prayer, it opens my eyes and I listen.
There are things that you've said that have been very meaningful to us, and I suppose one of the most beautiful things is your attitude and your things that you say regarding prayer.
It's constantly saying have faith and listen to God, let our lives be driven by God.
He wants to see people believe in God and do the right thing.
claim for yourself, God, and claim what you can do and go out and live his life.
Well, I think there are probably those that know Don at a different level, and maybe after they have heard some of the things that we've heard tonight, they may want to terminate future dealings with him. What do you think?
Well, I think that'd be a real shame because Don has done so much with so many different people outside of our congregation. You can take, for instance, Robert Schuler, and the way Don and Robert Schuler have worked together to try to put together interdenominational missionary programs that have reached beyond Dallas into the world.
Well, tonight we're going to be having some comments from Dr. Schuler and also from Rosie's cousin, Senator Benson. But first of all, we're going to have some words from Don's eldest son, Dink, who is speaking on behalf a part of the family. Dink?
Good evening. I would like to share with you just a few of the joys that are a part of not only being the senior member of the Benton children, but also as being a member of my father's staff. First of all, it is a rare honor that one should get the privilege to be a member of such a fine, distinguished staff and to work for such a fine, patient, learned, and great preacher. Why, the honor is so great that I often feel absolutely overwhelmed by the utter magnificence of his dynamic presence and spectacular aura. Bonnie, the next time I ask you to write a speech for Daddy, don't use such big words. It is a rare privilege to be a part of something so wonderful as the staff of Lover's Lane, and not only to be able to work for my father, but to work for a friend and to work for one of the greatest preachers I've ever known. Dad, I wrote this the other night, and to me, it says a lot about our relationship. It also says a lot about my relationship with one that you led me to. Too many times when I would look at you, I would do it through the eyes of envy. I could always see the goodness in you, but I couldn't see the same within me. I would run away to hide my guilt and pain, and at times I'd even rebel against you. Yet you would reach out again and again. Your love is what always came through. It took too long for me to finally turn and see, and it is only by grace that I am here today. I'm standing beside you instead of against you, and I want to help you light the way. You have taught me how to live my life instead of just letting it come. You have taught me how to say thank you, God, when each long day is done. I've learned from you that I am a child of God, that I do have love worth giving. I've learned to share God's grace and peace with others who have given up on living. I've learned so much, even when I could not hear, that faith in Christ makes life brand new. And what I hope you hear today is I am grateful, because I have learned all these things from you. I love you, Dad.
Hello, Don. Hello, Rosie. And hello to all my friends in Dallas, especially at Lover's Lane congregation. My mother always said, you better pick your friends carefully, because no one gets to pick his relatives. On that score, I've been more fortunate than Mother ever imagined. I have brothers and sisters and cousins I would have chosen as friends. And they took husbands and wives I'm happy to have as relatives. I'm told the theme for this gathering is, "And Don Says." I understand your parishioners will be quoting memorable passages from your sermons. That means you're about to learn one thing all preachers and politicians learn eventually. There's no greater lesson in Christian humility than hearing your own words come back to you. In one of your Ash Wednesday sermons a few years ago, you asked whether anything about the human condition has really changed, not just in our lifetimes, but ever. I don't remember exactly how you answered, but I do remember how you described Easter's lesson of renewal. You said that after this earth, we receive a new life for ourselves through grace. But while we're on this earth, we can build new lives for others through works. Don, I've never known a ministry more dedicated than yours to doing precisely that. Your outreach to children and minorities, your work in West Dallas, your service with the United Methodist Church worldwide, these are testaments to Christian conviction and the humanity of faith. Lots of people have preached about the state of the world, but you've worked to improve it the way it counts, one person at a time. Today is truly your day. I want to tell you I'm proud to be your friend, part of your family. I won't close by saying God bless, because he already has. I'll just say congratulations on this happy anniversary, and may there be many, many more.
Well, this is one of the most exciting and happy moments of my life because I have a chance to talk to you, Don Benton, and you are one of my top living friends. I'll tell you, of all the ministers I've met, and I've met tens of thousands of them, of all the pastors I relate to, and I relate to thousands of them, Don Benton, you're a part of a small group. You're a part of a small number, and you rank with them. Because you are, first of all, a really good friend of mine, and I've needed your friendship. You've helped me. We all need all the help we can get, and that's your spirit. I recognize it. I want to be that kind of a guy. When I'm good, I think I am. Well, Don Benton, you are my special friend. And I admire you because you actually are celebrating 15th anniversary. Fantastic. Just fantastic. I hope the bishop will let you stay there the rest of your life, because what a pastor you are. I remember being in your church, spent several hours there not long ago, and you proudly, enthusiastically introduced me to this fellow who's a minister, and this person who's a minister, and this lady who's a minister. My gosh, when you finished introducing me to all these ministers, I thought they were the lead pastors of the Methodist Church west of the Mississippi. And you said, they're my team. They're on the staff. Lovers Lane Methodist Church. Fantastic, the team you brought together. And I know a lot of your members. I've met them. Many of them have written me letters an hour of power, and they've sent contributions which allow us to stay on the air, and I try to thank them. But it's your spirit, Don. It's your fabulous spirit. The world, I don't think, will ever forget that once there was a year when 12 ministers gathered together for 2 days to be alone, to open their hearts, to pray, to think. The Presbyterian, the Methodist, you, the Reformed, Lutheran, Baptist, Pentecostal, 12 ministers of 12 terrific churches join hands and say, the world's going to hell and we're going to help change it to a heavenly course. And you became a part of the 12 persons who would form the core of what I think is going to be one of the most impacting ecumenical movements of Christian history, a movement called churches uniting in global mission. Lovers Lane Methodist Church now has a worldwide television program. It's called The Hour of Power. And you've very graciously allowed me to be on the staff and preach these sermons on global television, but this belongs to Lover's Lane Methodist Church. And it belongs to the First Presbyterian Church in Atlanta. And it belongs to the Church of Joy Lutheran Church in Phoenix. And I could go on and on and on. This television church service belongs to churches, not to Schuler. Churches uniting. Oh, that's great. In global mission. Don, thank you for your friendship, your encouragement, your love, your support. Happy anniversary. Aim for your 25th.
Well, if I might just state the obvious, Don has many friends, and the nice thing is that he's earned every one of them. But he's not the kind of person who's going to be satisfied with just having that circle of friends or this circle of friends. And over the next 15 years, he'll make just as many friends as he has over the last 15 years. You just can't stop a preacher with heart.
That's right. And for our final presentation tonight, we have an honor that comes from the city that Don has served so well. Would you please join me in giving a warm welcome to our mayor, the Honorable Steve Bartlett.
This is an evening of enormous significance, as has been the life and times and love and pastoring of Dr. Don Benton at Lover's Lane Methodist Church. In fact, this is quite an honor. I do get to bat cleanup, so the next person you hear after me will be Dr. Benton himself, who is required to remember what everyone said and who they were and to respond. I think many of you have heard me say in the past that the great city of Dallas will be rebuilt by the assets and the strengths and by recognizing those assets that we have in Dallas. And you and I often refer and think of those assets as downtown and the Meyerson and the and Fair Park and Keast Park and White Rock Park and the Arboretum and otherwise, and that's true. But the real assets of Dallas are the people and the leaders of vision in Dallas, representing the diversity of Dallas, and thus we celebrate an asset tonight of Dallas, an asset who has touched the lives of thousands, tens of thousands indeed, throughout Dallas during his ministry here, as he has set out to reach across town to West Dallas, or across the world to Russia or to South Africa, or across the table to a young person who is hurting or an older person who is grieving, and thus the love and the pastoring of Dr. Don Benton. Tonight it gives me great pleasure, actually, on my own behalf as well as the Dallas City Council, and if you don't mind extending it to my predecessor, Annette Strauss, who is here with us. A special recognition, which Annette, when I first came to office, taught me to be certain to take the best ones and to be able to present myself. And this is among the best. Whereas since 1977, Dr. Donald R. Benton has served both his congregation and the citizens of the greater Dallas community as the senior pastor of Lover's Lane United Methodist Church. And whereas Dr. Benton has significantly increased the membership of Lover's Lane United Methodist Church and has brought faith into the lives of countless others. And whereas Dr. Benton has tirelessly given of his time, energy, and talents to the Dallas community by helping the needy, giving comfort to the grieving, and counseling the troubled through his service to the YMCA, the Wadley Research Center, the Girls Adventure Trails, the Mayor's Task Force on Criminal Justice, the Family Place, the United Way, the Children's Medical Center, and numerous other organizations. And whereas Dr. Benton has been recognized internationally for his contributions to the United Methodist Church by teaching goal setting and long-range planning in Poland, by reviewing the efforts undertaken in the dismantling of apartheid in South Africa, and by assisting with the reestablishment of the Christian church in the Russian Republic. Now, therefore, I, Steve Bartlett, Mayor of the City of Dallas, and on behalf of the Dallas City Council and my predecessor, Annette Strauss, do hereby extend special recognition to Dr. Donald Benton on this day, the 18th of September, 1992. Congratulations.
We're through.
Thank you very much. This is quite an honor. I'm deeply moved and sincerely grateful. There's some people who have been an important part of my life, obviously. One before I was born, another shortly after I was born. My sister and her husband, my brother and his wife are over here seated at this table. Could we have a light? I'd like to recognize them. Right over here. Will you all stand, sis, Jimmy? "39 years ago, in a few months, I met and married my wife, Rosemarie, who has supported me in the ministry, and I'm deeply grateful to her. And with our being blessed together, we have 5 children, and 4 of them are here, 5 of them, all 5, there's Deb, she moved, okay. My children are here and their spouses. Would you all stand? I love you. Rosie, will you stand with them? They have given me much, and most of all, the opportunity and support to be who God called me to be. I am constantly amazed at the grace of God with the friends with which I've been blessed. SM, I appreciate you. We've held hands and worked together many times. Mayor Strauss, you're a beautiful lady, and I'm grateful to you. Ken Pye, Mayor Bartlett, others who have spoken either on video or in person. I am constantly amazed at the ways in which God has blessed my life. 44 years ago in July, I had graduated from high school in May, and I really didn't know what I was going to do with my life. No one in my family had ever been to college, and so I wasn't really being encouraged to go. Our family was poor enough that we didn't own a car and we didn't have inside bathroom. And somehow, in the midst of that kind of limitation in terms of the earth's resources, we had a mother who was a deep, deep person of faith who had significantly influenced my life and had seen to it that we had gone to church, that we had prayed, we had studied the Bible. And church was an important part of my life, even though in my high school years I had to catch a ride to get there. I still loved church, and I went. But I graduated from high school not knowing where I was going to go or what I was going to do. I was considering going to college. Possibly I knew I'd have to work to do that because my family couldn't afford to send me. Or I would get a job or maybe join the Air Force. I wanted to and I loved to fly and later did get to learn. But I was truly wrestling with life when on a Sunday night in July, the third Sunday night in July 1948, somehow at the end of the service, when the hymn of invitation was being sung, I can't tell you what happened or how it happened, but somehow God saw something in me and called me to preach. I told the preacher, I don't know what that means. I haven't been a Methodist but a year, but I want to be a Methodist preacher. No one was more surprised than I was, unless it was the preacher's wife, who told me she would have thought it of anyone but me. But in a month or so, I was given a scholarship and a job, and I went to college, and then after college, got a job to pay for some of the debts I'd accumulated. And somehow, all along the way, doors have been opened, and the grace of God has been demonstrated again and again and again. There is absolutely no other way to explain why I'm here. In fact, I told Roger as I sat there, it is extremely difficult for me to believe that this is for me. If somehow along the way I've touched your life for good, or I've received your love for me in a way that also confirms your goodness, if somehow our lives have been blended and the world is better because of that, as Paul would say, it has abounded in overflowing thanksgiving to God, and that's really what my life's about. I'm grateful for every opportunity you've given me, and I'm deeply humbled. I'm glad. SM asked me, this isn't a retirement, is it? And I said, oh, I hope not. I hope it's just a recharging. It really has been. I've tried to contemplate this night, and I can't thank those who've been a part of my being here enough. Bruce Weaver is here, came in from New York. He was our district superintendent for a while, and he also was a part of the reason I was invited to Russia. I have a wonderful staff. We have wonderful membership and leadership in the church. How could God's grace continue to flow so generously to me? It is truly amazing. But I hope you understand this. I am deeply, deeply grateful to God and for every one of you. And I can hardly wait to see what else God has prepared for us. A man's reach must e'er exceed his grasp, else what's a heaven for? I read that quote very early in my ministry. And I want you to know, I'm not through reaching. And I want you to reach with me. For there is so much that needs to be done and can be done. And we are the ones whom God has called and chosen to do it. I really love you. And thanks. Thanks so much for loving me. God bless you.
We want you to know that Don is going to be moving into the reception area over here once again, and if you want one of those now famous bear hugs, by all means, step over there and get one. I know I'm going to be in the line too.
Tracy and I together thank all of you for coming, and let's all get together again for his 25th. It's been a wonderful night.
God bless. Good night.